In one of West Africa's fastest growing regions, a private developer is attempting something government across Nigeria have struggled to develop for decades. A fully planned city built from the ground up with underground facilities, independent power, and infrastructure designed to last.
Great infrastructure. This is amazing. I really can't believe what I'm seeing right now. I walked the site, looked at the landscape, looked at the building structures. Really, really nice.
But just 3 months after construction began, accusations of land grabbing surfaced, threatening to shut the project down before a single home was completed. This is the story of Cubana Millennium City. And whether you care about African real estate or not, what happens here might tell us something important about how cities will be built across the developing world in the next 50 years. There's a stretch of reclaimed waterfront in Lagos known as Banana Island. It is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Africa. A single plot of land here can sell for over $2 million. For years, Banana Island has presented the peak of Nigerian real estate ambition, the place where wealth makes a statement. But here is the problem. When a place gets too expensive, even the rich start looking somewhere else. Lagos has become a victim of its own success. Land prices have risen so high that even the wealthy professionals are now priced out of premium areas. The city holds more than 20 million people, making it one of the most densely populated urban regions on earth. So here is the questions many investors are asking. What if the next Banana Island isn't in Lagos at all? 450 kilometers east of Lagos, in a city most people outside of Nigeria rarely talk about, someone is investing over $100 million because he believes this is where the next wave of growth will happen. And to understand why that bet might actually make sense, you need to understand who is making it. Asaba is the capital of Delta State in Nigeria's oil-rich south. For much of its history, it lived in the shadow of bigger names. Lagos to the west and the commercial powerhouse of Onitsha just across the river. But Asaba has something else most cities don't: lots of space. In 2024, one of Nigeria's most recognizable entrepreneurs decided to use it. Obi better known as Obi Cubana, isn't a conventional real estate developer. He is a brand builder, a storyteller. Through his hospitality empire, he's perfected the art of creating destinations, places people don't just quit but want to be associated with. His hotels and clubs don't merely sell rooms, they sell visibility and status. But Cubana Millennium City is a different kind of bet.
What's going on? Everybody's calling me a city boy just because I'm building the biggest city in Africa. Anyway, I don't have time for any response right now. When I'm ready for you guys, I'll respond.
66 hectares of land, roughly the size of 60 football pitches, a mix of luxury homes, commercial district, and something rare in Nigerian development: infrastructure designed and installed before the buildings rise. Now, if you've heard promises like this and roll your eyes, I get it, because Nigeria has no shortage of ambitious announcements like this that quietly disappear. But here is what caught my attention. The way they are building this is genuinely different. And to understand why that matters, you need to understand how Nigerian cities actually fall apart. Okay, so here is the pattern. A developer builds houses, roads follow later, often unpaved, electricity is improvised, strung on wooden poles exposed to rain, heat, and accident. Water pipes, when they exist, are buried so shallow that every road expansion tears them open again. And here is the thing most people don't talk about. Nigerian cities don't just fail to improve, they actively get worse. So a neighborhood that looks promising at 5 years old is crumbling by 20. Infrastructure doesn't fail to keep up with growth, it works against it. I call this aging backward, and it's the default setting for urban development across most of the continent. Millennium City is designed to fight that decay underground. Before any building foundations are poured, crews carved out a network of underground conduits, dedicated channels for power cables, water remains, and fiber optics lines. They are deliberately oversized. When something breaks or a technology changes, roads don't need to be destroyed. A heart is opened instead. Eventually, 22 kilometers of internal roads will sit on top of this hidden system, shielded from weather, traffic, and chaos of unplanned expansion. But, and this is important, before any of that could work, engineers had to solve Delta-specific problem, the ground itself. Asaba sits on unpredictable terrain. 1 meter is solid laterite, the next is swamp. Thousands of cubic meters of compacted sand had to be moved just to create a stable foundation. Get this wrong, and even the smartest buildings start sinking within years. The developers say they have done it right. Time will tell if that is true. But before we get into controversy, there is a cultural layer that explains why investors are paying attention in the first place. There is a concept known as akurouno. Roughly translated, it means let wealth return home. It's the expectation that success achieved elsewhere in Lagos, London, or Los Angeles should eventually translate into development in one's place of origin. Now, here is why that matters for this project. For decades, wealthy members of Igbo diaspora have poured money into Lagos. It was the only option that made sense, but Obi Cubana is betting that mindset is shifting, that investors want an alternative closer to home, where their money builds something tangible in their own region. And the location reflects that thinking. The site sits on a major corridor linking Nigeria's commercial southeast with the oil-producing south-south. This isn't just a housing estate, it's positioned at a regional crossroad. So, is the bet paying off? Here is where it gets interesting. This isn't the first time this development team has tried this model. In 2019, they launched Cubana Millennium City in neighboring Anambra State. Plots initially sold for about $35,000. Today, those same plots are valued at over $200,000, a sevenfold in 5 years. Let that sit for a moment. 7 times your money in 5 years in real estate. The Asaba project is following the same blueprint. Current plot prices range from roughly $80,000 to $170,000. Early investors could see substantial appreciation over the next decade, and construction itself is already reshaping the local economy. At peak activity, more than 270 workers are on site at once. Food vendors, transport operators, and material suppliers have clustered around a project that didn't exist 18 months ago. On paper, the number makes sense. But here is the catch. In Nigerian real estate, value means nothing if ownership is disputed. Just 3 months after the groundbreaking ceremony, allegations surfaced. Leaders from Isele Azagba community accused the project of being built on disputed ancestral land. At the center of this dispute is a long-standing boundary disagreement between Isele Azagba and Okpanan. Conflicts like these are common across Nigeria, and they stalled development worth far more than this one. Now, here is where it gets complicated. The Delta State government moved quickly. Governor Sherif publicly aligned himself with the project, appearing alongside Obi Cubana and framing Millenium City as a pillar of his economic development agenda. For investors, that backing changes the calculation, but it doesn't erase the risks. Political support offers protection, but it doesn't resolve history. What's striking is that construction hasn't paused. The machines are still running, the roads are still being laid. The developers appear to be betting that momentum and government alignment will outlast the controversy. That strategy has succeeded in Nigeria. It has also failed. And for communities involved, the stakes go far beyond investment. For some, this project offers opportunities. For others, it threatens land held for generations. So, where does that leave us? Here is why I think this story matters beyond Nigeria. For decades, African urban growth has followed the same pattern: rapid expansion, weak planning, and infrastructure perpetually playing catch-up. The assumption has been that this is just how cities develop in Global South. Chaotic at first, functional later. Maybe. What is being tested in Asaba is a different hypothesis entirely. Can secondary cities absorb pressure that mega cities like Lagos can no longer handle? Can private developers deliver durable infrastructure at price point beyond the ultra-wealthy? Can you actually build the pipes before the building for once? If this model works, it becomes a template for not just Nigeria but for growing cities across the continent facing exact same pressure. If it fails, buried under land dispute, broken promises, structural shortcut, it becomes another very dangerous trend. But standing there today, watching underground conduits laid before the roads that will cover them, one thing is already clear. Someone is finally building the infrastructure first, and in African urban development, that alone is exciting. So, is this the future of African cities, or another ambitious project that won't survive first contact with reality? Let me know in the comment section. If you love definitive African infrastructure project like this, please like and subscribe, and see you on the next one.